All right, Christina Salinas, how are you doing?
I'm
It's
great.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. We've had you on before, but this technique you're doing, it keeps evolving, keeps getting better, and just
Yeah.
so excited every time I see you put up new work. So with that, can you please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and where you're from?
Well, Christina Salinas, as you know, and I live in California, in kind of near San Jose, like Silicon Valley. And you would think there'd be more light painters around here, but there isn't. There's
Right.
like it sucks. There's like no light painters around here other than my students. So
Right.
uh,
That, and that was my next thing, because for those that don't know, Christina, she's a high school teacher. She teaches art. She does a whole curriculum on light painting, which is fascinating, and I thought about this the other day. So when your students initially come in, like, how do you explain to them, like, what is light painting? Like, how does that conversation start?
well, you have to realize that. I mean, I'm sure you all realize that most these kids have no experience with photography at all.
Right.
So they're coming in and all they have experience with is just taking a few photos with their cell phone or whatever. And so they don't understand lighting, they don't understand cameras, nothing. So I have to pretty much, slowly scaffold the information to them. But basically, when I talk about light painting, I just tell them it's with the most simplest terms possible. It's like the light is your paintbrush, the black is your canvas, just like what Aaron was saying earlier. The black is your canvas, and imagine you're painting with that light. The black is your canvas, and your camera is capturing it, and it's simple like that. But also, I have them look at a lot of different websites. Lightpaintingphotography.com, Light Painting Alliance, like Instagram, Facebook, whatever, like web, I have them look at lots of images and we break it down and I teach them about different tools. And I mean, it's a process. It's definitely a process.
It's so neat to follow along on the high school page, the group page that you have, because it's neat to see the students' progression and how quick and what's really neat to me is when you see them imitate other artists and you see these imitations in there of them trying to recreate something that somebody else has done. So it's really, really awesome what you're doing.
And that's what they mostly do is like imitate other artists' style and because they're not at the point where they can really create their own work yet.
Right.
Teaching them the basics, so
let's talk about you. So how long have you been light painting? How did you discover light painting yourself?
1990.
All right, old school.
Yeah, old school. Literally, like, I graduated in '87 from high school, went into college, and my major was photography. So I started using flashlights because I couldn't afford to go buy myself a studio kit. So and like one of the first shots I did was just someone with their arms out like a cross and outlining the whole body, outlining everything. And another one I did was I covered someone in saran wrap and had them like in a fetal position and then lit them with a flashlight, and it looked almost like they were glowing because of the light reflecting off the saran wrap. Another one I did was I wrapped Christmas tree lights around somebody and I just started experimenting and I just love the effects. And I also would print in the dark room, and I really loved really high contrast paper. So I would get these super contrasty black and white images. So yeah.
Well, I'm going to screen share real quick and give me 1 second here. All right, so I want to talk about these. So this is so beautiful. I just the creations that you're doing. these just they're just so awesome. You know, what are these called? What are you calling these creations?
Um, my creative spirits, creative creatures, uh, they're just, they're just, they're spiritual beings. How I see them is like spiritual beings that just exist in some reality somewhere.
Right. Like how did these come about? Like what transition and started this whole process of creating your work like this?
Well, you know, a long time ago when I first started working with Photoshop, I used to do these kind of fantasy images, but I would take a photograph of myself and then I would manipulate it and make it look like it was somewhere in some other environment. But I was like, no, 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 I don't want to do this. I want to actually do it in reality, like go somewhere and actually do it somewhere, like actually create these like fantasy images, but not just like, I don't want to do Photoshop. I want to actually create it with like light, and, that makes sense. Like I just didn't, and so I started with my husband, actually. He was kind of like my model, and that didn't work too well. He'd be like, are we done yet? Are we done yet? Can I? I'm like, no, we're not done.
Right, just one more try.
Yeah. And so I thought, well, why don't I start making them out of like papers? Because then that way they won't move. They'll do exactly what I want them to do.
You're
So I started making them out of like out of mat board, basically. My first one I ever made was out of cardboard, and I spray painted it black. And then I just started getting large pieces of mat board, and like that was one of my first shapes right there.
right.
And I just just drawing the shapes on the mat board, cutting them out with an X-Acto knife.
So how do you come up with the being or the creation there? Like, so how does that process start?
So many different inspirations. My faith, spirituality, other artists, classical art, archetypes, just nature, everything. I'm inspired from a lot of different areas, and sometimes I like to do acupuncture. And so like I'll be laying on the table and literally like it's like an hour of just pure like meditation. And so sometimes I have my ideas come up then when I'm like just laying on, with the points, with the acupuncture, which is, I find that sometimes I'll have ideas there. I mean, it's just all over the place. Like I'll see a picture and I'm like, and then all of a sudden I'll have like some kind of idea in my head. This one was inspired by, the Phoenix, and I went to Utah for that to do this one. And I practiced it first in the studio, to make sure I know what I'm doing when I go on location. And
so you're drawing these, these cardboard. So you're drawing it out on this type of material, then cut it out, and
yeah, I cut it out. And then about a year ago, I started experimenting with the UV paint, because the UV paint helps with very smaller detailed areas. Like if you want to define a face or the side of a body.
And that's what this is here on
yeah, I painted that on with UV paint. And with this particular one, I did a kind of like a twin, almost like a duality, like they're the opposites of each other, almost yin yang. And this one was like the longest exposure to do.
Right.
Yeah, because it was
one of my favorite things about your post and these creations and what you're doing is how well they are documented. I mean, because you're showing the initial image, you're showing the setup, the tools. Do you have a favorite light painting brushes tool that you found that works best when creating these? Like what is your favorite tool when you're
Well,
when you're
definitely the unicorn blade, the feather blade, and using the chalk markers. I absolutely, since Johnny, like had mentioned using chalk markers, I am in love with chalk markers because you can create any texture you want. Like on this one here, I'm doing kind of like a Celtic design. I'm doing a Celtic design, and I wrap them in saran wrap because it's easy to nick them on accident, you know? Or if you go somewhere where it's cold and they start like your blades start to get like moisture on them. I almost like ruined my blade because of this. So I started wrapping them in saran wrap so that it doesn't like, so that you don't accidentally nick the chalk marker off the blade, or it kind of protects it from cold so that they don't, because I almost like had my blade like it's totally smeared because of that. So
that's great advice. I mean, I've never thought about doing it that way, but yeah, I could see how that works. So that
and
definitely.
then like on this one here, I mean, Johnny said to use the electrical tape and everything. And what that does is it completely makes the edges disappear so that like you only see the leaf pattern, and it's like you're stamping it, because I like to turn the blade on and off at the bottom. So I'll turn on the flashlight and then I just press. So I'm very purposeful where I put the blade. And yeah.
I think it's the next picture. I can't tell here, but Johnny's with us. I hope we don't hear him cry. But it's coming up. I think you know the one I'm talking about. But again, I love how well you document everything that you do, and the way that you create your post and share your work with us. So keep that up. It's just I just absolutely love it. But here's that picture. So if we hear Johnny crying, what happened here?
Okay. So I actually asked Johnny, I'm like, Johnny, can you make me a unicorn blade that's bent? And he said, well, you're gonna have to talk to Jason Page about that one. I'm like, well, okay, well then can I do it myself? He's like, oh yeah. So basically I just bought a blade, and then what I did was I took a torch, like one of those kitchen torches, like for creme brulee, so it was a butane torch, and heated it up. That's what he told me to do. He told me to heat it up, and then get a big bucket of water. And, I was wearing a glove as well because I didn't want to burn myself. And he says, just kind of bend it and then stick it in the bucket of water. And that's exactly what I did. So, and the reason why I did this is because I wanted to basically be able to follow the head of one of my blade guides. I call them blade guides. The big paper map board, I call them my blade guides. I wanted to follow the head, and I wanted it to arc a little bit more rounded. It was the one for the creek ferry that I did recently. But it could be any of these too. But yeah, the creek ferry one, the one at the very end.
This one right now,
no, that
right here.
Yeah. So you can see how it kind of curves a little more. So it just curved and followed the shape a little more. So that's why I wanted. I've only done it on this one figure so far. So I'm looking forward to actually experimenting more with it and see what else I can do. So,
and that hits really on the next question here. I remember the first time that I seen you take these creations and actually move them outside. Do you have a favorite place that you've created one of these at? And I love the locations that you're picking. Just the environmental element to the light painting is just absolutely awesome. So do you have a favorite place as we look through some of these?
Oh geez. I mean, that's the Pinnacles. it's a park here in about 2 hours from here. So I like that location, but every location is different for the purpose of the artwork, you know? So for this one, I really wanted this oak tree. And when I went to the Pinnacles, I saw they have so many amazing oak trees there. And so I knew this was going to be a location that I was going to go to. And then this kind of the big oak tree is kind of like the male figure. And then we have the wife or the woman, Mother Eve is what I call it. She's like pregnant, she's about to deliver, and the heart and the life flowing through the heart to the branches and to the baby and to everywhere and connecting to the tree. That's kind of how I envisioned this one.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. As you're given the description, that's perfect. It's a beautiful location. I love that element too of her being pregnant and seeing the baby in there, and just really cool.
I love Yosemite. I love Mono Lake. I just went to Mono Lake, which was just absolutely beautiful. This one I was just looking for a oh God, I'm just like blanking on the name, a labyrinth. And this one was just more out in nature in over in Half Moon Bay. That's where this one was. Yeah, Half Moon Bay. Yeah. There was it's quite a few different labyrinths around here, but they all were really lit up. This was the only one that really was out in nature. So it worked out better to go here.
This next one I really love. This right here, these rock formations, and just the story you were telling about the what were the name of the shrimp that were in the water?
So this is an alkaline lake. Let me give you a little history. These rock formations are called tufas, and they are made from calcium carbonate, and they basically bubbled up from underneath the lake. And as the lake started to lose water, they surfaced. And because it's an alkaline lake, only brine shrimp live in the lake. You know, we probably know them as sea monkeys as kids.
Right.
Who got sea monkeys? Who wanted to have sea monkeys? Right?
You used to buy those at the store. That's right, in a little packet, and you put it in the water. And
Yep. And so, I mean, it was kind of surreal because as I'm in the water painting this, they're swimming all around my feet. You know, they're like all around my feet. It was. I had to throw my shoes out. So
what kind of camera are you using? Are you what are you shooting this on?
I'm using the Canon R6 Mark II.
Awesome.
I just upgraded that camera to that camera. Yeah. So this was kind of like
how long are you when we were initially setting up and everything? So you're just framing everything, getting it all ready, and
yeah. Well, during the earlier part of the day, I had walked around and I was looking for the right spot. And initially, I thought I would move it like more in between the rocks, but it just kind of got lost. So they were too large. So I moved it forward, and then I used some rocks to stabilize the light stand. And this one was just kind of a first quick test, just to kind of use the blade. Did I bring that blade? I don't have it here right now, but
I just want to see the look on people's faces, seeing this random lady just walking with this in her hand, you know.
Nobody was around. There's a lot of these tufas, and I just kind of chose this very secluded little spot, and nobody was around other than my husband and my friend Kat. That's it.
You framed it perfect. Yeah, like you couldn't. The framing on this is just absolutely brilliant. It's awesome. let's talk about this one, this the creek, and this is that UV paint again. Is that
Yeah,
right?
so sometimes when I want to do a more precise design, like for this, I used Celtic knot design. So I printed these out on photo paper, cut them up, and glued them on, and then painted over them. Sometimes I'll cut stuff up on paper. Sometimes I'll just paint directly on. It just depends on, I don't know, what I feel like doing at the time and what makes sense. So for this one, it just made sense because I wanted to use a lot of Celtic knot designs. And I did use, like, here's the blade. I put some Celtic knot designs on the blade. And then I went to this place called Alum Rock Park, and when I was just doing a walk there, actually. I was just going there to do a little hike, and they had this cool creek, and the minute I saw the creek, I just knew I wanted a ferry there. Just a whimsical ferry, and yeah,
And again,
nothing
you know, it's
nothing
such
too
a
deep
cool,
here.
it's such
Just
an awesome frame. Just the framing and adding the environment with these creations is just, they're awesome. And I remember you talking about this, the Yosemite trip that you had, just so neat. You know, you're looking at a perspective that has been photographed millions and millions, you know, literally.
this
This is
one
so,
was a little crazy to do because there were a
right.
lot of people around on this one. So my friend Kat was with me on this one, and she ran interference for me. So, so because there's a lot of people around, and so that, so she would just talk to them and tell them what I was doing so I could focus, because it does take a lot of focus. I
Right.
have to really think about what I'm doing, or I'll forget something. So, yeah.
Then these last two are, they're two of my favorites. This one right here is just, the colors just are fascinating. Love this. And then this next one here, I think this is probably my top favorite one that you've created yet to date. The Phoenix hair is just really cool. Where was this taken at? Where's this located?
This is in Kanab, Utah, and I was there for a conference, and I was waiting for a special place to do this particular design. Because a lot of personal meaning to me, because I lost my house to a forest fire in 2020, and I always wanted to do like rising phoenix once I kind of recovered from it all, which I have. Recovered from it all, and I I knew I wanted to do it here because of the earth and just how red the earth is, and it just made sense to do it there. So
You know, I just thought of something too. Are these locations that you're choosing, are you working around the moon cycle to bring in the environment and really pull in, utilize the moonlight into your light painting?
sometimes, but not all the time. Usually I'm working at about nautical twilight, so there's still a little bit of light left, and I can see what I'm doing. Um, about 10 minutes, about all I have usually. If I just use hooded gels to light the environment, then I can work, a little bit longer.
You know, I'll ask you the same question that I asked Aaron. You know, what would you tell someone who just started out light painting, or what kind of, any, if you want to give any advice to the community, anything like that, what would you say?
I would say do everything, do it all, and that's what I started off with. I mean, I just copying everybody's techniques, getting as many tools as possible, just experimenting. I mean, shoot, trying everything out, and then eventually you really start to develop your own style. You kind of transition into your own style, and that's kind of what happened. And for me, like this is something that's very meaningful to me, and I feel very inspired by it, and I feel like there's no cap to it. Like there, I there's so many different shapes you can create, and it so
Well, I think
yeah.
that you're definitely conveying that message very well with what you're creating, and so you can definitely see what you're talking about with it meaning something and having a spiritual sense to it. So keep up the great work. I look forward to seeing these in other locations. Is there a location that you're after that you really want to put one of these creations at?
Yeah, Keyhole and Big Sur.
Okay, I always
I
thought.
that's like I'm gonna go there, but I don't know. I mean, there's this one point in like January and like December and January where the sun sets in the keyhole, but it may be too much light. I don't know. So I thought about doing a moon set, but out timing wise. But I do want to go there at some point. That's like a definite location I want to go to. So
Another cool place, and this just came when you were talking about that. I just thought of if you ever go to Oregon, I think is it called Thor's Punch Bowl or Thor's something like that. Oh man, I'll have to look it up, but it's just fascinating. They call it Thor's Punch Bowl, I believe, but this water when high tide comes in and it splashes up in the air through the rocks through this like portal.
yeah.
But yeah, that would be a neat place to have one of
I
these.
I would also like to plan something a little more with photo pills with like a super moon or something, but that is harder to do. Like photo
Right.
pills complicated. I mean, it's easy for like figuring out the Milky Way, but like for moons and stuff, like having like those big moons and like proportion and everything, that's a little more complicated. I can't tell you how many videos I've already watched on it. I'm still like, huh?
Right.
I don't know. But they're hard. It's a pretty difficult one. But yeah, it's planning a little more with photo pills. I'd like to do that too.
Yeah, that sounds great. Christina, where do we how can we follow along with you? What's the best way to follow along with your work?
I'm on Instagram at Christina the Light Painter, and also YouTube, and also I have some videos. I have a channel on YouTube, and also Facebook. I could paste it in the.
Yeah, please do. If you want to share anything in there, just throw it in the comments there. Absolutely.
Okay, I'll do that.
Um, with that, Christina, just keep up the fantastic work and really appreciate you being here this evening and talking about these creations that you're doing. So I look forward to seeing what you create next. And again, thank you so much for being so, just your posts are awesome. I mean, you show from start to finish, and I absolutely love that because you get to see this whole process and you get to take us through that journey with your creation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jay, I got a question.
Yeah.
Or Christina, not for you. First of all, I just want to say those images that you are creating, Christina, I feel like you are not even aware of how incredible those images are. Like all the work that's going into those, the planning, the processing, everything that you're doing and putting into those images is just wildly good and amazing. So yeah, it's funny, like the way you talk about it, you're just like, yeah, I hear this a lot with the light painters when they're making these super complicated, incredible images. They're just like, yeah, you just, do this thing and this thing and this thing and all these, 100 steps end up with this image, and that's kind of what I feel like is happening here. They're absolutely incredible. But my question is, is there a limit to the ones you're making? Like, do you have is it a planned out series where you're going to make, 50 of these, or are you just going to keep going?
I'm just gonna keep going. I have to work around my schedule, yeah, once school gets started, oh, it's hard, but like the first couple months of like September is really hard to like really focus on this, but it's I figure out a way to squeeze in time to do that. A lot of teachers who are artists who teach art, a lot of times they lose their practice. A lot of art teachers do, And I never wanted to be one of those type of teachers who lose their practice because they're so busy just teaching all the time. So I make it a very conscious effort to, like, you know, to work on my craft, and I fit it in when I can. So yeah, like during the summer I have a lot more time, and more time to really think about it. Like the Mono Lake one, like I must have looked at hundreds of pictures. I watched tons of videos of the location just so I could really feel the location, you know. At first I thought about doing like salt kind of pattern, but that doesn't, and then I decided to go with more of an organic one, so more organic with the brine. So I know
It's awesome. They're so incredible. So thank you so much. And again, I second Jason. Thank you so much for how much you share and the way you share all that information in the group and with everyone. And it, like I said, everyone's talking about it, really is just the most beautiful part of our community. But the way you're doing it is wonderful. So thank you very much.
you're welcome. Thank you so much. This community has been amazing, and I don't think I would not be here, or any of us I think would be here, if it wasn't for this community. And really,
Well, you're a big part of it, so thank you so much. You know, really appreciate you contributing. And for those that don't know, she did put her link in the comments there. So if you want to click on that link and give her a follow and follow along, please do. And Christina, that place somebody commented, it's Thor's Well. Look up Thor's Well.
okay.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. But yeah, with that, Christina, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yep. All right, everyone. Let me share my screen here again. All right, so time for some shout outs. Everybody see my screen okay? Yeah, so first up, we've got Laura Del Prado. This was super cool. Why is I can't see the top right here? Yeah, so this part right here on the guitar, that was like the first thing my eyes were drawn to when you shared this. Just love this texture right here and the way this feels, and these color patterns are just awesome. So wanted to shout you out for that image. We've got Dimitri, man, just this camera rotation here, the colors and everything, super cool. Love the video that you shared there in the comments too. Keep up the great work, man. Shawnee, really cool seeing one of Ian's serpents, somebody else do it. And again, it's so cool to see people take, you know, people's interpretations or what they create and then give their own interpretation of that. So thank you again. And Robert D'Angelo, man, it was really cool to see something new. See, you know, he's creating a light painting during the day here. It is possible to light paint during the day. You know, I've done it with an ND filter. It's probably a lot easier with say like an Olympus camera, where you can do live composite versus using an actual ND. But super cool. I love this, and just the whole feel of this picture is really nice, and the light painting there is great. Terrence Martin, this was really cool. The colors and the hands here. Just wanted to shout you out. Really appreciate you always contributing. Ian, man, this was really neat with the textures here and just the orb shape. And I think I've got the tool right here. So here's the tool that he was using. I've said this before, for those that don't know, I call Ian the Johnny Griffin of the UK, because he's always sharing these different, you know, different ways of putting tools together and using them. He's got a drill here and spinning it around. So thanks for always sharing, you know, how you're putting those tools together. I always mess up this guy's name, Kiyashe Moto. Him too, man. He's always sharing different little tool ideas and just something to get your wheels spinning and you know, think about different ways of applying light painting brushes and using them in different fashions, or using them you know, together as combo tools. So thanks for always you know, sharing those ways of connecting the tools as you do. and here's something he created. I don't know if it was with that tool, but it was in the same post. So just wanted to shout you out. Ryan, I love spirals. The neat thing about spirals is, me and Jason Page have talked about this before, but it's so neat to be able to throw something out into the world and something that you created, and you're like leaving your mark and leaving a piece. So when you see somebody imitate that or recreate something that you've done, it really means a lot, and it's more special. At least for me, it's special, and it's great to see people creating something that I came up with. So just wanted to shout you out and thank you so much for sharing. Dimitri, this was just super crazy. Just the patterns here and the texture and the depth of this image, man. So really, really neat image, and love just all the colors. Laura, this was really cool fiber. There was a whole series that she did when she shared, and this just one of my personal favorites that I saw. Love the waviness up here around the arms. Just a great fiber portrait. So thank you for sharing. Jamie, really cool work here. Just love the all the plexi work and just the overall image. It was like some Jeepers Creepers, but I love it, man. Just it's got a great mood, a great feel. Thank you for sharing. This was really neat. Just these Carl, the ground here and these cracks. I really want to experiment and explore a place like this, and I just I see people when they have the opportunity to do this, I don't know what you would call it, just the cracks in the ground, and I would just love the opportunity to have the opportunity to light paint a place like this, so I can appreciate this image even more, just from having that as something that I want to do. But really cool image, love the colors and everything. Rick, I love the portrait here. Just wanted to shout you out and appreciate you sharing with us. Paula, love the blade work, red, white, and blue. Just keep sharing, and thank you so much. I wanted to shout this out. Just every time I see this image, this is one of my personal favorites from the trip that we had down in Jekyll Island, Georgia. And I think what's more special about this is just seeing Jason in his element and creating, and his spatial awareness is like no other. Just the way that he light paints, it's really something to see, and it's fascinating, and just I absolutely love this image, and I just can't get enough of it, especially the colors. I'm a sucker for this this tone of blue, and especially with the orange on the walls there. So great work. Robert D'Angelo, cool fiber, just drawn to this eye, man. It's just so like well, just something creepy about it, but it's so creepy cool. Just really, really neat. So I just wanted to shout you out. And then Ryan, again, when you shared this, I just love the softness of this image. It's so soft and elegant. Really appreciate you sharing with us, and want to give you a quick shout out. So with that, we're done. So that's Light Painting Brushes live for July. Want to thank Aaron Simmons again, Christina Salinas, and everybody else that joined us this evening. We'll be back again in August. So thank you all so much for making this community what it is, and being a part of this. And we'll get this up on the channel. So if you guys want to, do any, watch it again, we'll have it up on the YouTube channel here shortly. So, but thanks again, everyone.